Hello, it is Thursday, November 14th, 2017. It is 1 o'clock Eastern Time, and this is Marketing Live. I am your host, Amy Jorgensen. On today's live broadcast, we'll be discussing how we work in a pay-to-play world. Paying to play with content on social media this may seem frustrating, but it's actually giving us more time and value than ever before. Gone are the days of relying on organic search, especially for small institutions. On this episode of Marketing Live, Abby Meyer joins us to share why paid content is an essential and valuable piece of your social media plan. Learn how boosted content and paid ads help the University of Nebraska Medical Center exceed reach and engagement expectations on Facebook while accomplishing a high return on investment. You'll also hear about some of the importance of accurately targeting your audience for paid content, something that was crucial to UNMC's success. Marketing Live is part of a Higher Ed Live network. Our episodes offer you direct access to the best and brightest minds in education. Be a part of our live broadcast by sharing your knowledge. Participate in today's discussion by tweeting us using #HigherEdLive. All of our episodes are free and easy to access in the video archives at higheredlive.com, or take Higher Ed Live with you on the go by subscribing to the podcast. Higher Ed Live is produced by M. Stoner, a digital-first agency committed to tailored solutions that drive real results. Are you looking to improve your institution's digital marketing strategy and execution? To be successful, today's higher ed marketer must make data-driven decisions and connect digital performance back to strategic and financial goals. Educate your entire team in the latest digital marketing strategies and trends on December 6th during M. Stoner's Digital Marketing for Higher Education online conference. We'll be tweeting out a link very soon to learn more about the conference. I'd like to welcome our guest, Abby Meyer, the Web Content and Social Media Specialist in the Public Relations Department at the University of Nebraska Medical Center. Welcome, Abby.
Thank you for having me.
We're excited to have you.
Thanks.
So anyone who's following along, if you do have any questions, make sure to tweet us using #HigherEdLive, and we're going to start off with some questions that I have of my own. So let's start off. Why did you start using paid ads?
So we started using paid ads at UNMC because some of our content was reaching a very, very small amount of people. So Facebook's organic reach at this point is hovering around 5%. And so that means if content is not engaged with immediately after it's posted or within an hour or two after it goes up, then it really just disappears. It becomes invisible in Facebook's eyes because they don't see that as being engaging. And therefore, if there's no likes, no comments, no shares on it, then it's just gone. So then that means not very many people see it. So we had some content that was experiencing that. And so And it was still valuable content. It was just not reaching the right people and not reaching the people that would really be interested in it. So we decided to establish a budget for paid content on social media and moved forward with that.
That's smart. So what was your original reach and engagement stats, and how did this change after using the ads?
So like I said, some posts were reaching 300, 400, 500 people, and so on our Facebook page we have about 14,000 followers, and so that means that it's even less than 5% of people are actually seeing some of the things. Now, the analogy that I give a lot of people is especially with Facebook, Facebook engagement breeds Facebook reach. Mm-hmm. And reach breeds engagement. So it's a cycle. Engagement to reach, reach to engagement. The more people that engage with your content, the more people will see it. And the more people that see it, the more people will engage. So adopting that kind of a mentality was really important for us. So some of our content organically was reaching a couple thousand people before we even did paid content. And then, but afterwards, we definitely saw a spike in terms of really zeroing in on who is seeing our content, because that is really the true value in doing paid ads in the social space, because not only are you able to reach more people with them, but you're able to specifically target the people that you want to speak to through your content. And so we definitely saw a spike because of that. And that spike and ultimately meant for a higher return on investment when we were pretty confident that the people that actually saw and engaged with that content are the people that actually cared about it.
That's smart. So how do you identify the audiences for your posts?
So the audiences all depend on the objective. So we could be targeting students if it's a recruitment Facebook ad. We could be targeting community members that aren't affiliated with UNMC at all, because we're seeking clinical trial participants. And we could be targeting women in the community who have no connection to us as an institution. So they would have no reason to look at our Facebook page. They don't follow our Facebook page at this point. So we need to break through that and target specifically women interested in XYZ, of a certain age, living in a certain area, in order to reach them. So the audience that we define is all determined on what that specific initiative is and what the objective is and who would be most interested in that specific objective.
That makes sense. You don't want to be promoting, prostate exams to a whole bunch of, new moms.
Right. Exactly.
But pediatric cancer might be one that would be appealing. So yeah, that makes sense.
Exactly. So that's been really important for us as a medical institution. We're a medical school, so we have 7 colleges that are focused in various health professions. And so it's when all of our clinical trials are health focused and health based, medical based. And so that is the majority of our clinical trials, and really the majority of our content is centered around that, because we don't have a undergraduate institution that we're directly tied with. And so our institution's accounts are these main accounts that I'm talking about. And so it's very important that when we're thinking about participants for a clinical trial, we're thinking about what does their lifestyle look like? What are they interested in? Because I can't type in cancer patients.
Right.
Facebook won't let me do that. And so we need to think about, well, we can't specifically target cancer patients or people that are diabetic or people who have arthritis. What are things that we could input into the ads manager of Facebook that people who have cancer or people who are diabetic may align with?
So when identifying some of those audiences, do you ever look at other groups that you may want to? So if there's like a pediatric cancer support group on Facebook or things like that, are those groups that you're able to do ads specifically towards, like anyone who might have engaged with this page before?
Yeah. So the ads manager is set up so that you can target people who like certain pages, or who note that they're interested in certain pages by liking them. So that would include breast cancer awareness pages.
Right.
So breast cancer awareness or diabetes awareness, chronic pain. People like pages related to those concepts. Now, just because they like those pages doesn't mean that they have those issues themselves, but there's a higher likelihood that they do. And so that's about as close as we can get, is targeting people who like pages related to certain
similar content
or certain medical issues. And so we can narrow the field a little bit, which definitely helps.
Well, that makes sense. And I mean, if we're doing this for admissions and in another form of higher ed, you could also look at, students that are, engaged in certain activities and do the tailored marketing like that. That's smart. So when it comes to engagement, what kind of engagement are you seeing on your posts, and what are you really striving for?
Yeah, so that also kind of depends on the initiative and the objective. So we're looking at shares, comments, and likes, of course, but that all depends on what the end game of each of those individual posts are. So, for instance, if I have an ad out there that's clinical trial participants, really want comments on that ad. I want people to click into the website and register to become a participant or register for more information. So I'm looking at website clicks on that. I'm also looking at shares if people are telling their friends about this. Comments is actually something we don't want because of HIPAA. So that's an example of when engagement can actually be a detriment in that regard, because we don't want to start airing everybody's medical histories out in our comments. And so now on the flip side, if it's a brand awareness ad, then we are looking at comments. We are looking at shares, because most often people are explaining how great either their care was at our hospital on campus, or how great their education was here, and then they're sharing that with their friends because they're proud of that. Yeah. So that it really just depends on what our end goal with it is, and what because no objective and no goal is the same, because no ad is the same. And so tailoring those to each specific initiative is super important.
That makes sense. I like that. So when it comes to frequency, when you're going through and developing the ads, how often are you posting them?
Yeah, good question. So we do, there's not necessarily a set schedule for this. We do clinical trial ads and targeting specific citizens in the community, types of patients, kind of on the basis of whenever those researchers need them. Now, because they're ads, they are technically dark ads. They're not living on our Facebook page. Mm-hmm. So that means I could do 20 different ads, and they would all be targeting different groups of people, and no one would know the wiser. No one would know that I have 5, 10, 20 different ads out there. Now, if I did all of those on my Facebook page, you would be able to go to our Facebook page and see, you would be able to see all 20 different ads sitting there on my Facebook page and kind of clogging up our newsfeed. Mm-hmm. And so that's why it's been super helpful to do ads, because no one really can tell how frequently or infrequently we're doing them. So like the clinical trial ads, for instance, that's not necessarily on my clock, because it's whenever they need them. But if we do something that, because you can also boost Facebook posts. So they would be a paid post that lives on your Facebook page. And so if that's the case, then you pay for it to be boosted. So it's literally receiving a boost to reach more people. And then after it's done being boosted, it still lives on your Facebook page. It doesn't disappear, whereas an ad would disappear. So for those, typically we'll do a couple of a week. So we have a series called Humans of UNMC. Mm. It's inspired by Humans of New York, the photo series that's popular across social media.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, where we interview someone on campus and pull a single quote from them and include a photo. So in that instance, I do that about once a week, and I will boost each of those for $10. And that allows each of them to really receive that boost that it needs and to reach more people. And then from there, it takes off. And people engaging with it carry it to become a pretty viral post, if you will, within our community. So so that's an example where sometimes they're scheduled, and sometimes they're, maybe on a weekly basis, and sometimes they aren't. And you could have no ads out at one point, and then you could have 10 ads out at one point, and it wouldn't really make a difference as long as you're reaching different audiences and targeting different audiences. You're not overwhelming one particular group of people.
Yeah, because I mean, if you have the same promotions going to the same group of people over and over again, they're like, okay, I get it. I'm no longer interested. Like it would have that,
Exactly.
It's like
And so
same song on the radio over and over again.
right, exactly. So that's really important, that you're not saturating the market of any particular target audience, and mixing it up if you can. So I've done a few campaigns where it's like a 6 or 8 week campaign, and I'm changing the ads every week, and sometimes I'll change the audience, sometimes I won't. But it allows me to review the analytics at the end of the week in order to prepare and perhaps alter what I'm doing for the next week. And that's an example where, you're probably going to saturate the audience a little bit because you're doing it over such a long period of time. You're doing it 6 to 8 weeks, and if you show the same ad to the same group of people, they're gonna get tired of it. So how do you change that up while still making it an overall effective campaign?
And sometimes it's repetition too. So like if you had I think you called it a dark ad, which just means that it's an advertisement that's not directly on your page. So if you have a dark ad and then you also have a post boost, then you can, it might be a good reinforcement. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, definitely. So that's definitely part of like these 6 or 8 week campaigns where we know that it might take a couple times for people to see an ad in order for it to resonate with them, and in order for them to say, oh, I'm going to click on this because this actually pertains to me, whether it's targeting prospective students or it's targeting faculty members or something. So we definitely, it's a fine line between how do you target people in just that right amount, kind of the sweet spot of where it's not too much, but it's not too little as well.
That's smart. So have you seen, so this is one of the big things in the controversy, I think, with doing online advertisements, is that some of us have seen a drop in regular reach and engagement on our posts after we do a specific post, like boost a specific post. Like our regular posts after that, it just doesn't have as much, reach and engagement. I'm wondering, are you seeing any of that? Are you seeing any of the, so there's been thoughts of like, is Facebook saying, okay, if you're willing to pay, we want you to pay every single time, and so we're going to hurt your later content. Are you seeing something like that? Or
we haven't seen a lot of that, actually, so I'm thankful for that. There's been no not necessarily much drop in regular organic reach and engagement. So that's been great, because Facebook definitely has that kind of leverage, that they're realizing that they could really eventually start charging us for everything we want to post, practically, which it seems like sometimes that's almost what it's like at this point. But they definitely have that kind of leverage, and so we haven't necessarily seen that a whole lot, which has been nice.
That's smart. Okay, cool. Well, how are you illustrating ROI? So you talked about how you're developing the different campaigns and the different audiences and connecting them together. So how are you illustrating ROI so you can go back to, higher ups and be like, this is how we've accomplished these goals and things like that?
Yeah. So ROI is definitely best illustrated by determining what metric is the most valuable for that specific initiative, like I kind of mentioned earlier. So like I said, if it's a clinical trial, we're looking at the reach, because we want to know how many people have been notified about that we're doing this. But if it's a brand awareness ad, we're looking at maybe shares and comments. Or if it's a prospective student recruitment ad, then we're looking at clicks into the website, because we ultimately want them to apply. But if it's a research study and we're just saying like, oh, we've got this cool grant, big news. There's not necessarily a defined end goal for that. It's more just awareness again. Then maybe we would be looking at comments. We'd be looking at shares. How many people want to tell their friends about this? So return on investment is one of those things where it's kind of a moving target. Mm-hmm. You can't define it always by one specific metric. It really comes down to what is your end goal for each specific initiative. And how is that, what is the return on that for you? Because you put $10 in or because you put $100 in, what are you getting in return on that? Are you getting a couple of applications? If so, for a big College of Nursing campaign we did, that was the case where we had a campaign and our return on investment was we had applications and that means new students coming in. That means their tuition. So the return on investment there was definitely worth the money that the College of Nursing wanted to put in on the front end. So it's always changing because like for Humans of UNMC, for instance, there's not necessarily a hard return on investment with that because I'm not asking anybody to do anything aside from look at the great people that we have here on campus, right. Comment on it, share it. But it's definitely, there's no call to action there. And so return on investment would be look at all of the people outside of our community that are sharing about this, are commenting on our posts, learning about the amazing students, the amazing physicians, faculty members that we have here. So it's always changing, and I think that's something that everybody really should be aware of. Is you can't just point to the same metric when talking about return on investment for every ad that you're doing or for every boosted post that you're doing.
I think that's smart because it has to align with whatever the goals are for that specific type of content. That's very smart.
Exactly.
So when you talked a little bit about price, and I'm glad you brought it up because how much do you spend on ads? Because I mean, my goodness, Facebook's going to want you to spend $1,000, but I mean, I've done posts in the past where it's like, okay, here's just $10.
Right. Yeah, totally. So it's actually more affordable than you may think because you can, like you said, you can do a post for $5 or $10, and usually I could reach 1,000, 2,000, maybe 3,000 people with just that amount of money. Mm-hmm. This is all dependent on who you're targeting. So it's not a price tier system where $10 gets you X amount of reach, $20 gets you Y amount of reach. It's all dependent on who you're reaching and the amount that audience is engaging with your content. Mm-hmm. So with that said, $10 is usually the minimum that I'll do on a paid post. I know I've heard people can even do $3 to $5.
Really?
But I usually do 10 as my minimum because if I'm gonna pay, I want it to be worth it. And how much you pay is directly related to the estimated amount of people you're going to reach. So 10 is my minimum, but then it just goes up from there depending on how many people. So with clinical trials, that we'll have those researchers will be the ones paying for it. So that's not coming from my my social media paid budget. That's coming from the researcher wanting to do an ad for their specific study. And in that case, they've got their own marketing budget. So they'll say, I want to put $100 into this ad, or I want to put $150 into this ad. And then they're going to see the return on that. They're going to see they reach 5,000, 10,000 people, perhaps with that. And so it's definitely a moving target. It's very customizable because you can change the dollar amount and you can change your targeting a little bit, and your whole all your variables are different. So it's I typically stay within, for just our paid posts where it's like Humans of UNMC, I do $10 for every one of those. If it's a news article about something great that we've done, or maybe a video that I want to post, I want to boost, or maybe an event that we're having on campus that I want to tell more of our campus about. For those types of things, I'll typically do under $100. So maybe it's $20, $30, $40, $50, just depending on who the audience is, to really get it out to people on campus.
Very cool. So does the increased online engagement, are you able to match that to your increased organizational goals and align that?
Yeah, for sure. So that increased online engagement that we're seeing definitely aligns with our organization's strategic goals. So it's part of our overall strategic plan to raise awareness and promote these initiatives. And it's just a matter of in what platform we're doing it. Are we doing it in print? Are we doing it in radio? Are we doing it through our website, social media? And so all of those avenues still would point back to the same stakeholders that we want to learn about, outlined in our strategic plan. It's just a matter of what is the tactic in order to reach them. So the increase that we've seen in these campaigns and these ads that we've done have definitely aligned with that, whether it's to raise engagement and unity within our campus, or to promote what we're doing to people in our community who aren't as familiar with what we do on a day-to-day basis.
Very cool. So into some of the technical stuff. When you're building an ad, one of the biggest challenges I have is that people always want to have so much text in the images for the event or for the post or whatever, and Facebook says if you have more than, what is it, 20% text, you can't boost it. So what do you do about making sure that your images are compelling and that they don't have a lot of text, but they still really represent your brand and something unique?
Sure. So that 20% is a bit of a headache because it's not exact. You just kind of have to eyeball it and see, this looks like it's about 20% of this visual. Okay, let's see if it works. Let's submit it. And Facebook will tell you, oh, it looks like you have a lot of text on there, so that means you're going to have to pay more in order to reach the amount of people you want. But we'll still show you. We'll still approve it. So getting it within that 20% can be a challenge, because we like to put text on some of our ads because it adds another layer of engagement. And so figuring out how that 20% rule fits within our brand, because we also need to adhere to our brand style and our overall branding. And so we've developed a loose template for that, and that incorporates our brand's colors, our logo, our fonts, and it's kind of a photo swap out situation where we can swap in a photo for a specific ad and swap it out and change it. But we know that the graphic is approved. So it helps streamline the process a little bit when we know the style is approved, and we can just change the text, change the image, and we don't have to necessarily worry so much about having the same kind of content out there and kind of boring people, because these are for ads that are targeted to different audiences. So we have the same style of ad for a College of Nursing recruitment campaign for prospective students in Nebraska and in the Midwest as we would for a study targeting women perhaps with osteoporosis. Those are two completely different audiences, but we have the same style of ad for both. We're just obviously changing the text, changing the image. So that has helped to streamline the process a little bit. So we're not building these graphics from scratch. for every one of these initiatives that we do, since we do ads pretty frequently.
Excellent. So do you have any last minute tips before we go off about the different kinds of ads, or anything else that we should be doing when developing the ad stuff? I know one of the things I learned from the hard way was all of my ads, they were named all these like really weird things, the campaigns or what have you, in the ads manager. So when I tried to export them and align them with organizational goals, I had to like go through each one and rename it. And so I've learned, always name it year, whatever the year is, and then
Yeah.
what it is, because oh my goodness.
Yeah, the ads manager is a bit of a learning curve because it's so helpful for developing ads. The ads manager is on the back end of Facebook, and so you can boost ads on the front end when you're looking at your Facebook page. But and it's even harder to find where the ads manager button is, but once you find it, it's super helpful because you have so many more options for targeting an audience in there. And it's not just boosting a post, it is actually developing a dark ad.
Mm-hmm.
So the ads managers can be a little bit complex, especially with looking at the targeting options, the cost options, the ad optimization options, and then getting into creative and actually how your ad would look. I would definitely recommend using the ads manager as opposed to just hitting the blue boost post button on the front end of Facebook, because you're not maximizing your ads experience if you're doing that. And so you can have, like I mentioned, you can have a Facebook dark ad, which only lives, it does not live on Facebook after it's been paid for. So it lives for 3 to 4 days, whatever you choose, is only seen by a certain audience, and then it's gone. And then there is a boosted post, which can be boosted from the front end of Facebook, from the blue boost post button. And then there is a boosted post ad, which kind of lives in the gray area in the middle, which is an ad because you choose it to be an ad from your list of existing Facebook posts, but you do that within the ads manager. So you have more targeting options, you have more payment options, you have more date and time options of when your ad goes live. And so those are the kind of the 3 buckets. But then, as you said, they name it all these different things that are all can then all be very confusing depending on what your objective is for the ad. And so just making sure you keep your ads manager organized and you know what you're naming them, so that when you look back at your list after a couple of months, you know what the ad is and what the results are, and it doesn't become such a jumbled mess.
I must have had at least a dozen ones that were named age, 18 to 22, University of Virginia, and all these things. I'm like, which one is this?
Yeah, exactly. Because it'll start to name your ads based on who you're targeting, and if you're targeting similar demographics, then they're all named the same, and it gets a little confusing. So I definitely learned that early on too, where I need to delete that and make sure I name it appropriately.
And I like that you brought up the dark ads. One of the things I've done, because we do a lot of event promotions in my office, trying to get students engaged and coming in, because they don't engage a whole lot on content, but in events, they're all about it. Like they say that's one of the biggest ways they hear about events is through Facebook.
Sure.
And so we have the events, and like I'll have multiple different kinds of pictures to try and lure them in to come into the event, because you have different audiences you're trying to attract.
Right.
This one might have a woman with a superhero cape on. This one might have a guy with, rocket propellers, different, fun images. And it always cracks me up and I'll use some of our own images too, when students see images of like friends and then they'll tag it in the event, and then they get back and like, oh, they changed the picture. You can't find it because it was in the dark ad. But like once they get there, they're like, where's the image? And so I always end up going back in the comments and trying to like say, oh, this was the image that had you in it. Thank you for being in our picture.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Event promotion and doing paid event ads is super, super helpful because that's personally how I use Facebook the most, is just RSVPing to events. And so I know that that's huge on campuses. And so being able to promote those specifically to certain people that you want to attend is awesome.
Yeah, for all our big career fairs and things like that, I mean, we're spending $100, $200, which seems like a lot, but
Yeah,
I mean, you're looking at 3,000 to 4,000 students coming over the course of,
right.
so it's like as much as you can do to get it out there and generate interest. Like you said, it's
Totally.
aligning it with your organizational goals and what you want to do.
Exactly.
So awesome. Well, I want to thank you so much, Abby, for your time. I've learned so many cool, valuable things, and I'm excited to jump in, especially with the ROI stuff, to my office and say, like, all right, here's exactly how it's benefiting. So that's wonderful.
Yeah, definitely.
So, and thank you always to our program sponsor, M Stoner, and to everyone watching. I hope you have a good day. Thank you.
Thanks.